Hello everyone and welcome to a update video for Minecraft 1.18. This is Snapshot 21w38a. It is a smaller snapshot full of a few tweaks, bug fixes and new technical features, and we are starting off in a stronghold because I don't usually cover changes like this. You see, the stronghold has returned. In the last snapshot these were actually missing, and so some other silly little bugs that got into the game last time around were broken light levels and water not spreading. As you can see here though, this water is also not spreading. But here's an example of a less obvious bug fix. This is the grove biome, which is still new and we're getting used to it, and it's actually supposed to generate with spruce trees, so that's why you see it littered with them. When I've shown you this in the past, I think it's mostly just been snow and no trees. Now, also related to terrain generation, there was an issue that could cause dripstone to generate on the surface. This is the dripstone caves biome generating this terrain at surface level. I actually think it looks really cool. Maybe if they did away with the water or replaced it with dirt, this would be like an interesting thing to discover when you're out exploring. Sadly though, it's been marked as a bug, so we won't be seeing this in future versions of Minecraft. Now, like last time, this snapshot is not compatible with any other version of Minecraft, so you won't be able to open other worlds with it. You have to create a fresh world for this snapshot. You'll also see here there is a warning that world saving can sometimes take a very long time, so when you exit a world, you might see a large lag spike. So now onto the feature-oriented changes in this snapshot. We now have the ability to cap the growth of certain types of vines, and we do that by right-clicking the top one with our shears. And the change here is just simply that it now has a sound to confirm that you're doing that. In this snapshot, we also have a change to the sprint mechanic. You can see the particle effects at my feet to show you that I'm sprinting. So if I let go of the sprint key, you'll see that we lose the sprint effect when I bump into a wall. Now, the change here is that you can still bump into the wall and walk away with your sprint effect, but it's very subtle. It has to be an angle of approach that's less than 5 degrees, which is kind of like really hard to implement. There we go. Nope, that was more than 5, so you're probably like rarely ever going to notice this at all, but it's a thing. So if you nudge a block, you might be able to keep your sprint. Our next change is related to copper ore, which can now generate as high as Y95, so you can see we're up here in a mountain, and this is some that I just happened to find right here. Now, what's interesting about this is the way it's always been communicated to us with those graphs that Mojang have shared. However, it wasn't actually generating this high up in the world, so that has been corrected. And there is also a note that says they've increased the amount of copper. By how much? I do not know. And finally, when it comes to ores, lapis lazuli apparently now generates in blobs, which is kind of how I remember it, in little blocks of 2x2. And every time I found lapis so far, they've actually just been 1 or 2 blocks on its own, and here we've got like 4. There's another so-called blob over here, and you know, every time I found it, it feels like there's less lapis than usual. So yeah, I don't really know what Mojang mean by, you know, changing it to blobs, but it seems to be less each time you find it. Also, just gotta say, this cave system is just amazing. The seed that I'm exploring right now has got so much cool underground terrain features. It is really awesome. And looky here, found another blob, and it's just 1 on its own. Look at this, just 1 block again. And over here, just 3, yeah. Anyway, let's move on to a big technical feature known as the simulation distance, and this I actually think is like a parity feature with Bedrock. So when you create a new world in the Bedrock edition of the game, you get this option right here to control the simulation distance of things happening in the world. And so now we have this same setting in Java edition under video settings. So you can go over here and you can change the simulation distance in your world. Now, the simulation refers to the processing of things happening in the world, like entities walking and moving around, or redstone contraptions firing, and so if you lower this distance, the game has less work to do. Pigs that are off in the distance, hanging out like those ones over there, with a lower simulation distance, they wouldn't be moving around. And of course, the upside of having control over this is that it could greatly increase the performance of your game, and the downside is it might break things like redstone contraptions. So I've set my simulation distance to 2, and now you can see all animals off in the distance are standing still, which means that the CPU isn't calculating their movement and whatnot. Now I think I'm mistaken when it comes to redstone, because look at this, the piston down the end there actually extends. But if we go and put a minecart on this rail, then you'll see that it stops somewhere around there. Aha! And it's not until we go over this chunk border that it starts moving again, because we've extended the distance of the simulation distance. Now here's something else that's really quirky. I'm going to go ahead and throw a whole bunch of snowballs, and when they reach that border, they're then no longer going to be processed. So now you can see there's like a bunch of particle effects going on over there, right? Or snowballs dropping over and over again. It looks very strange, and then when we move over here, all of those then finish falling down. So anyway, the idea here is that if you can turn your simulation distance down, you might be able to turn your rendered distance up, as these two things were previously tied together. So if your render distance was 20, your simulation distance would have been the same. Now this means on servers there's a new property in the server.properties file to control the server's simulation distance, so it could affect server performance too, and in the future they're also going to add block ticking and fluid ticking. I'm not entirely sure what block ticking would entail, but I believe fluid ticking would be like the spreading of fluids and whatnot, so that stuff would get frozen outside of the simulation distance. So now let's talk about the snooper settings, which are back in this version of Minecraft. This gives Mojang the ability to gather data and information from the game that can help them diagnose issues with Minecraft's performance. So this feature was removed from the game, I think back in 2018, and in the menu we had this snooper settings where you could opt in and out of sharing your data with Mojang. So I've been looking around the options menu here and I've been unable to find it in any of these menus, so now it might be an opt-in by default situation. But anyway, the reason this was once removed was because of GDPR, which is the General Data Protection Regulation, and the new system is now compliant with GDPR. And over here on the website there is more information, including a rundown of what's actually collected. It's all data from the World Load event, and it's all listed here. And another notable change in this snapshot over here on the website, it says that the maximum amount of background threads has been increased. There used to be an upper limit of 7, but now it can go as high as 255. And that is all technical stuff related to the performance of the game and how it runs on your CPU. And I, having a beefy computer here, have not really seen a performance boost at all this snapshot from that change. So maybe it's something that actually affects players with weaker CPUs. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of this snapshot video. I do have two things I'd like to mention though. Tomorrow will be my 10-year anniversary of uploading videos to YouTube. I'm doing a celebratory stream on Twitch. If you want to catch that, there'll be a link to it in the description box below. And also, if you didn't see my latest episode of Hermitcraft, we had just the most amazing, hilarious intro on that. You should definitely go and check it out. Anyway, that's it from me. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.